Elias Vance had worked for the Human Diplomatic Service for 12 years. He had visited 30 different planets. He had learned 9 alien languages. But he had never been inside the celestial throne room of the Elinthri Empire. No human had ever been allowed inside. The Elinthri were proud. They were ancient. Their empire had existed for 10,000 years before humans even learned to make fire. They looked at humans the way humans looked at insects. Small, weak, not worth their time. The Elinthri themselves looked like giant mantises. They stood 8 feet tall on 4 legs. Their bodies were covered in hard shells that shimmered like oil on water. Their heads held 2 huge compound eyes that saw in directions humans could not imagine. Their arms ended in hands that could crush stone or perform surgery with equal ease. They were beautiful in a terrifying way. Elias was only supposed to be a translator. The real translator, Dr. Sarah Chun, had gotten sick that morning. Food poisoning from an alien restaurant. Elias had studied the Elinthri language in university. He was not an expert, but he knew enough. So they sent him instead. His job was simple. Stand in the back of the room. Listen to the Elinthri speakers. Translate their words into the earpieces of the human diplomatic team. Stay quiet. Stay invisible. Do not cause problems. The throne room was the most beautiful place Elias had ever seen. The walls were made of living crystal that sang soft music when the light touched them. The ceiling was so high that clouds actually formed near the top. Thousands of alien dignitaries filled the chamber. Elias saw species he recognized and species he had never seen before. All of them were dressed in their finest clothes. All of them were here to witness the Queen's annual address. Elias entered through a small door at the back. He looked for the translator's booth. He could not find it, but he saw glowing lights on the floor, blue lights that seemed to form a path. He assumed these lights would lead him to his station. He followed the lights. The path took him through the crowd. Aliens moved aside as he walked. Some of them stared at him with expressions he could not read. Others made sounds that might have been gasps. Elias did not understand why. He kept walking. He kept following the lights. The lights led him up a set of stairs. The stairs were made of something that looked like frozen smoke. They led up to a raised platform at the front of the room. Elias climbed them. He was thinking about the translation work ahead. He was thinking about the words he would need to use. He was not paying attention to where the lights were taking him. He reached the top of the stairs. He saw an empty chair. The chair was made of black metal and white crystal. It was beautiful. It was also the only empty seat he could see. Elias sat down. The room went silent. Elias looked around. Every eye in the chamber was staring at him. Thousands of alien faces showed expressions of shock, horror, disbelief. Elias felt his stomach drop. He looked to his left. Queen Saelithrix sat 3 feet away from him. The queen of the Elinthri Empire was the most powerful being in this part of the galaxy. Her empire controlled 800 star systems. Her military could destroy Earth in an afternoon. She was over 2,000 years old, and Elias had just sat down next to her like they were friends at a coffee shop. He understood his mistake immediately. The glowing lights on the floor must have been some kind of automatic guide system. They had read something in his body chemistry and led him to this seat. But this seat was not for translators. This seat was for someone important. Someone who was clearly not him. Elias started to stand up. His heart was beating so fast he thought it might explode. He opened his mouth to apologize. He expected guards to grab him. He expected to be arrested. He expected to die. The queen moved. Her hand reached out and closed around his wrist. Her skin was cool and hard, like polished stone. Her grip was gentle but firm. Elias froze. Remain, she said. Her voice was soft. It sounded like wind moving through leaves. Elias did not know what to do. He did not know what to say. He stood there, half risen from his seat, with the most powerful being in the galaxy holding his arm. "I do not understand," he said. His voice came out as a whisper. The Queen's compound eyes turned to look at him. Up close, he could see himself reflected 1,000 times in their surface. He looked small, scared, human. "You smell of ghosts," the Queen said. "Your body carries the scent of the Volanthi." Elias did not know what that meant. He did not know who the Volanthi were, but he could feel the tension in the room. Every diplomat, every noble, every guard was watching this moment. "I am sorry," Elias said. "I made a mistake. I followed the lights. I did not mean to sit here." "The lights led you here because you belong here," the Queen said. "That seat has been empty for 3,000 years. It was the seat of my royal confidant, the seat of the Volanthi. They are all dead now, killed in the wars that brought my grandmother to power." She released his wrist. Elias could have run. He could have apologized again and fled the room. But something in her voice stopped him. Something that sounded like loneliness. "Sit," the Queen said. "I wish to see what happens next." Elias sat. The ceremony continued. The Queen gave her address. Elias sat beside her and listened. He did not translate anything. He did not speak. He simply sat in a chair that had been empty for 3,000 years. While the most powerful beings in the galaxy stared at him with confusion and fear. When the ceremony ended, the Queen turned to him one more time. "You will return tomorrow," she said. It was not a question. "Yes," Elias said. He did not know why he agreed. He did not know what any of this meant. But he knew that his life had changed. He knew that something important had begun. He walked out of the throne room in a daze. The human diplomatic team surrounded him immediately. They asked questions. They demanded explanations. Elias could not answer them. He could only think about the Queen's words. "You smell of ghosts." He did not know what it meant, but he intended to find out. Elias returned to the palace the next day. He did not know what to expect. He did not know if the Queen truly wanted to see him or if guards would arrest him at the gate. But when he arrived, servants led him through golden hallways to a private garden. The Queen was waiting for him there. The garden was filled with plants that glowed with soft light. Small creatures flew between the flowers. A fountain made music instead of water. The Queen sat on a bench made of living wood. She looked different without her crown. Smaller somehow. More tired. "You came," she said. "You told me to," Elias replied. "I tell many people to do many things. Not all of them listen." She gestured to the space beside her. "Sit with me, human. Tell me about your species." Elias sat down. He was still afraid, but his curiosity was stronger than his fear. He wanted to understand what was happening. He wanted to know why the Queen had chosen him. "What do you want to know?" he asked. "Everything," the Queen said. "My advisors have told me about humanity for years. They say you are dangerous. They say you breed too fast and spread too quickly. They say you will be a threat to my empire one day." She paused. "But they have been wrong about many things." "We are not a threat," Elias said. "We just want to survive. We want to explore. We want to understand the universe." "All species want those things," the Queen said. "But your species does them differently. You arrived in this galaxy less than 200 years ago. In that time, you have colonized 300 worlds. You have made alliances with species that have hated each other for millennia. You have changed everything you touch." Her eyes focused on him. How? Elias thought about the question. He had never considered it before. Humans were just humans. They did what they did. But now, sitting next to an ancient queen in an alien garden, he tried to see his species from the outside. "We die quickly," he said finally. "Compared to you, we barely exist. A human life is like a candle flame. It burns bright, and then it goes out. So we have learned to move fast. We have learned to take risks. We have learned to care deeply about things, even though we know we will not live to see them finished." The queen was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, softer. "The Volanthi were like that," she said. "They lived only 200 years. To my people, that is nothing. A blink. But they saw things we could not see. They understood things we could not understand. They were our advisors, our truth speakers, the only beings in the Empire allowed to tell the queen she was wrong." "What happened to them?" Elias asked. "War," the queen said. "My grandmother wanted the throne. The old queen refused to give it to her. There was fighting, terrible fighting. The Volanthi tried to stop it. They tried to speak truth to both sides. Both sides killed them for it." She stood up and walked to the edge of the fountain. The light from the plants made her shell glow with colors that had no names in human languages. "Since the Volanthi died, no queen has had a truth speaker. No one dares to tell us when we are wrong. We are surrounded by advisors who say only what we want to hear. We make mistakes, and no one corrects us. We grow proud and foolish and blind." She turned back to Elias. "When you sat in that chair, I felt something I have not felt in 3,000 years. I felt uncertain. I did not know what would happen next. I did not know what you would say or do. For 3,000 years, I have known what everyone around me would say before they said it. You were different. I am just a translator," Elias said. "I am nobody." "You are human," the queen replied. "Your species has no history with us. You have nothing to gain from flattering me. You will be dead in 50 years, no matter what I give you. You have no reason to lie to me." Elias began to understand. The queen was not interested in him because he was special. She was interested in him because he was human. Because humans were different. Because humans lived fast and died young and had nothing to lose. "You want me to be your truth speaker," he said. "I want you to be honest with me," the queen said. "I want you to tell me what you see. I want you to tell me when I am wrong. I want you to be the voice that everyone else is afraid to be. And if I tell you something you do not like, then I will listen," the queen said. "I may not agree. I may argue with you, but I will listen. That is more than I can say for any of my own people." Elias looked at her. He saw the weight she carried. He saw the loneliness in her eyes. She was 2,000 years old. She had ruled an empire for centuries. But she was alone, truly alone, surrounded by people who feared her too much to speak the truth. "I am not wise," Elias said. "I am not special. I am just a man who sat in the wrong chair." "Perhaps that is exactly what I need," the queen said. "Someone who sits in wrong chairs. Someone who breaks rules by accident. Someone who does not know how things are supposed to be done." She held out her hand. "Will you stay, Elias Vance? Will you be my ghost?" Elias looked at her hand. He thought about his life back on the human station. He thought about his small apartment and his boring job and his empty future. Then he thought about this ancient queen who was asking him for help, asking him to be something no human had ever been. He took her hand. "I will stay," he said, Don, and so began the strangest friendship in the history of two species. 3 months passed. Elias moved into the royal palace. He was given a room in the wing where the queen's closest advisors lived. The other advisors did not like this. They watched him with cold eyes whenever he walked through the halls. They whispered behind their hands when he entered a room. But they could not stop him. The queen had spoken. Every day, Elias attended meetings with the queen. He sat in the Volante chair and listened to nobles argue about trade and territory and taxes. Most of the time, he stayed silent. He did not understand the politics of an alien empire. But sometimes, the queen would turn to him and ask for his opinion, and he would tell her the truth. "That lord is lying," he said once, after a noble had made a long speech about why he needed more soldiers. The queen's antennae twitched. "How do you know?" "He keeps touching his neck." He did it every time he said something that did not match his previous statements. Humans do the same thing when they lie. The noble was investigated. Elias was right. The Lord had been planning to use the extra soldiers to attack his neighbor and steal his land. The queen was impressed. The noble houses were terrified. Word spread through the empire. The human could see through lies. The human told the queen things no one else would tell her. The human was dangerous. Some nobles tried to bribe Elias. They offered him gold and land and servants. He refused everything. Other nobles tried to threaten him. They said his family back on Earth would suffer if he did not cooperate. Elias told the queen about every threat. The nobles who made them disappeared from court, but the real danger did not come from the Elinthari. One night, Elias received a message on his personal communicator. It was coded with military encryption. The message told him to come to the human space station in orbit above the planet. It told him to come alone. It told him to tell no one. Elias went. Admiral Chun was waiting for him. She was the highest-ranking human military officer in this sector. She was a small woman with gray hair and eyes like ice. She had fought in 3 wars. She had killed enemies with her own hands. She was not someone who made jokes. "Commander Vance," she said, "do you know why I called you here?" "No, Admiral." "You have been given an incredible opportunity," Admiral Chun said. "You have access to the Queen of the Elinthari Empire. You eat meals with her. You attend her private meetings. You know her secrets." "I am her advisor," Elias said carefully. "Not her spy." "You are a human," Admiral Chun replied. "That means you work for humanity first. Everything else comes second." She walked to a window that looked out at the planet below. The Elinthari homeworld glowed like a jewel in the darkness of space. Billions of aliens lived down there. They had technology humans could barely understand. They had weapons that could crack planets in half. "The Elinthari have tolerated us for 20 years, Admiral Chun said. "But they do not respect us. They see us as children, animals, things to be managed, not equals to be treated with. That will change one day. And when it does, we need to be ready. What do you want me to do?" "The Queen trusts you. She tells you things. I want you to tell those things to me." Admiral Chun turned to face him. "Every secret, every plan, every weakness. I want to know everything about the Elinthari that could help us if war comes." Elias felt cold. "You want me to betray her. I want you to serve your species. The Queen is not your friend, Commander. She is an alien. She thinks differently than you. She feels differently than you. Whatever connection you think you have with her, it is not real. It cannot be real. And if I refuse—" Admiral Chun smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Then I will have you removed from your position. I will tell the Queen that you have been sending secret reports to Earth all along. I will destroy whatever trust you have built with her. And then I will find someone else to do what needs to be done." She handed him a data chip. "Think about it. You have 1 week to decide." Elias took the chip. He returned to the palace. He did not sleep that night. He stood on his balcony and watched the twin moons rise over the imperial city. He thought about what Admiral Chun had said. She was not wrong about everything. The Elinthari were not human. They did think differently. Their empire had crushed other species before. Maybe they would crush humanity too, one day. But was that a reason to betray someone who trusted him? Humans had always survived by being clever, by finding weaknesses, by taking advantages wherever they could. It was how they had conquered their own planet. It was how they had spread across the stars. Maybe Admiral Chun was right. Maybe that was all humans were: survivors, exploiters, parasites, who crawled into the cracks of greater civilizations. But Elias did not want to believe. That dot, he thought about the Queen. He thought about her loneliness. He thought about the way she listened to him, really listened, like his words mattered. He thought about the trust she had placed in him. Trust that no one had earned in 3,000 years. He took the data chip and threw it off the balcony. He watched it fall into the darkness below Dot. Then he went to find the Queen. Elias told the Queen everything. He told her about Admiral Chun. He told her about the data chip. He told her about the order to spy on her. He expected anger. He expected her to throw him out of the palace. Instead, she was quiet for a long time. "You could have said yes," she finally said. "You could have given them what they wanted." "I would never have known." "I would have known," Elias replied. The Queen made that clicking sound that meant she was thinking. "Your Admiral Chun is not wrong about everything. My empire has destroyed other species. We have done terrible things in the name of power and survival. Many of my people still see humans as insects, food, nothing more. And what do you see?" "I see a species that has surprised me," the Queen said. "I see a species that might be worth keeping." She reached out and touched his face. Her fingers were cool against his skin. "Thank you for telling me the truth, Elias, even when the truth was dangerous. That is exactly why I chose you." After that night, things changed. Admiral Chun sent more messages. Elias ignored them. Human diplomats demanded to see him. He refused. Eventually, Earth sent a formal complaint to the Elintari government. The Queen responded by naming Elias as an official member of her court, a citizen of the Empire, protected by imperial law. Admiral Chun could not touch him anymore, but other enemies were watching. The Festival of Luminance was the biggest celebration in the Elintari calendar. It happened once every 50 years. The Queen would appear before her people and renew her bond with the living crystal that powered the Empire. Millions of aliens would gather in the Imperial City. Fireworks would fill the sky. Musicians would play songs that humans could not hear. It was supposed to be a time of joy. Instead, it became a time of blood. Elias was standing beside the Queen on the royal pavilion. The crowd stretched out before them like an ocean of shimmering shells. The air was filled with light and sound and alien perfumes. Elias was watching the crowd. He was not sure why. Something felt wrong. Something he could not name. Then he saw it, a shimmer in the air, a distortion, like heat rising from hot ground. It was moving toward the Queen, moving fast. Elias did not think. His body moved before his mind could catch up. He threw himself in front of the Queen. He felt something cold punch into his chest. Then pain, terrible pain, like fire spreading through his veins. He fell. The crowd screamed. Guards rushed forward. Someone caught the assassin. Elias did not see any of this. He was lying on the ground, looking up at the sky. His body would not move. His lungs would not breathe. Everything was getting dark. The Queen's face appeared above him. Her compound eyes were wet with something that might have been tears. "Do not die," she said. "I command you not to die." Elias tried to laugh. It came out as a cough. "That is not how death works. I do not care. You are not allowed to leave me. You are not allowed to leave me." Then the darkness took him. He woke up 3 days later. The royal physicians had worked on him without stopping. The assassin's weapon had been coated with a poison designed to kill Elantary. It should have killed a human even faster. But somehow, Elias survived. The doctors said it was a miracle. They said his body had fought the poison in ways they did not understand. They said humans were stronger than they looked. The queen was beside his bed when he opened his eyes. She looked like she had not slept since the attack. Her shell was dull. Her antennae hung low. She was holding his hand. "You saved my life," she said. "You saved mine first," Elias replied. His voice was weak. "When you asked me to stay, my life was empty before. Now it has meaning." The queen was quiet. When she spoke, her voice was different, smaller, more afraid. "My advisors say I should send you away. They say your presence has made me weak. They say I care too much about you. They say caring makes me vulnerable. What do you think?" "I think they are right," the queen said. "Before you came, I did not care if I lived or died. I had ruled for so long that life had become boring, empty. I went through the motions of being queen, but I felt nothing. Then you sat in that chair and everything changed. I started to feel again. I started to care again. About you. About my people. About the future." She squeezed his hand. "That is weakness. The most dangerous kind. But I cannot bring myself to regret it. Caring is not weakness," Elias said. "Caring is what makes life worth living. Without it, we are just machines, going through motions, waiting to die." "Your species is strange," the queen said. "You live such short lives. You know you will die, but you still love. You still hope. You still care about things you will never see finished. I have lived 2,000 years, and I have never understood that. Until now." She leaned down and pressed her forehead against his. It was an Elantary gesture of deep affection. Elias had never seen the queen do it with anyone. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Not because I command it, but because I am asking. Stay with me and help me learn to care again." "Always," Elias said. The next day, a message arrived from Admiral Chun. It demanded his return to human space. It threatened consequences if he refused. Elias sent back one line: "I resign my commission. I have found something worth more than advantage." He never heard from Admiral Chun again. Years passed. Elias grew older. His hair turned gray. His body became slower. But his mind stayed sharp. And his place beside the queen remained unchanged. The empire began to transform. It started with small things. The queen opened her council meetings to common citizens. She allowed people to speak their complaints directly to her, without fear of punishment. She listened to voices that had been silenced for thousands of years. The noble houses were furious. They came to the queen with demands and threats. They said she was destroying traditions that had lasted for millennia. They said she was making the empire weak. The queen listened to them. Then she turned to Elias. "What do you think?" she asked. "I think traditions that make people suffer are not worth keeping," Elias said. "And I think strength that comes from fear is not real strength." The nobles stared at him with hatred in their eyes. But the queen nodded. "I agree," she said. The reforms continued. The queen abolished the old laws that allowed nobles to execute servants without trial. She created schools where anyone could learn, not just the wealthy. She invited humans to serve as advisors alongside Elantary ministers. For the first time in 10,000 years, aliens who were not Elantary held positions of power in the empire. The Lord Chancellor, the highest noble in the land, confronted Elias during a council meeting. "You have changed her," the Chancellor said. His voice was filled with contempt. "You have infected her with human weakness, sentiment, attachment. These things will destroy the empire." "Perhaps," Elias replied. "Or perhaps they will save it." Save it? The Chancellor laughed. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We need no saving. Certainly not from creatures who cannot even live a single century. Your empire has ruled for 10,000 years, Elias agreed. But look at what you have built. Your nobles hate each other. Your people fear their leaders. Your queen sits alone on her throne, surrounded by liars who tell her only what she wants to hear. Is that strength? Is that success? The Chancellor had no answer. The Queen stood up from her throne. The room fell silent. The human speaks the truth, she said. We have built an empire of fear. We have grown strong by crushing everything that challenged us. But strength without wisdom is just violence. Power without compassion is just cruelty. I have lived 2,000 years, and I have only now begun to understand this. She walked down from her throne and stood beside Elias. This human taught me something that all my advisors in all my centuries could not. He taught me that caring about others is not weakness. It is the only thing that makes power worth having. The reforms accelerated after that. More humans came to the empire. More species were welcomed. The old walls between races began to crumble. Trade increased. Wars decreased. For the first time in memory, the galaxy began to feel like a community instead of a battleground. But Elias was getting old. Human bodies were not meant to last. Even with the best elementary medicine, he could not live forever. His hair was white now. His hands shook. His eyes were growing dim. He knew he did not have much time left. On his last day, the Queen sat beside his bed. She held his hand the same way she had held it on the first day they met. Her grip was gentle. Her eyes were wet. I do not want you to go, she said. I know, Elias replied. But this is how humans work. We burn bright and fast. We love deeply and die quickly. It is not a flaw. It is who we are. How can you be so calm? You are dying. Because I have lived, Elias said. I have loved. I have mattered. What more could anyone ask for? The Queen was silent for a long time. You have changed everything, she finally said. You sat in a chair by accident, and you changed the history of 2 species. How is that possible? How can one small human do so much? That is what humans do, Elias said. We are small and weak and brief. But we care. We care about things that will outlast us. We plant seeds for trees we will never sit under. We build bridges we will never cross. We love people we will never see grow old. He smiled at her. That is humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not our cleverness, not our adaptability, but our stubborn, foolish, magnificent ability to care about beings completely different from ourselves. The Queen leaned down and pressed her forehead against his. I will remember you, she whispered, for as long as I live, for as long as the Empire stands. You will not be forgotten. I know, Elias said. That is enough. He closed his eyes. The Queen stayed with him until the end. Years later, historians would write about the Great Reformation that transformed the Elinteri Empire. They would argue about economics and politics and military strategy. They would try to explain why an ancient empire suddenly changed its ways. But those who had been there knew the real answer. It started with a human who sat in the wrong chair, and a queen who asked him to remain. That was humanity's true power. Not conquest, not exploitation, not survival at any cost, but the simple, profound ability to see something different from themselves and choose to care about it anyway. In the end, that made all the difference. And in the great hall of the imperial palace, the Volanthi chair was never empty again. Other humans came to fill it. Other truth speakers. Other ghosts. They came from a species that lived fast and died young. and cared about everything. They changed the galaxy. One chair at a time.